Welcome to Fight the Good Fight Club, the podcast about the relentless pursuit of a life and relationships filled with purpose, love, joy, and peace. If you're ready to get real and dig deep, then you're ready for Fight the Good Fight Club.
Hi, everyone. I am your host, Cynthia Cintronr.
And I'm Marcel Pope.
And we are Fight the Good Fight Club. I am in such a good mood today.
You usually are.
Oh my gosh. I know. I tend to like to wake up happy, but for two reasons. The first one is we didn't fight over the lesson. I can't.
Maybe this stuff's taking root.
I don't know. Like, we're all so happy. Actually, it's three reasons. One, we didn't have an argument over the lesson.
And you don't hold grudges against me
and
anymore.
I don't hold grudges against you
and
anymore.
I don't hold any against you.
Two, I went to visit my godson nephew this week, which made me way happy. And which also feeds into how I am practicing today's lesson, which is lesson number 4.
I'm sorry, 104, in case someone's looking that up.
Oh, lesson 104. Yeah. I seek but what belongs to me in truth. And basically the premise of this lesson is peace and joy. So I'm really happy. And reason 4, I'm here with Marcel.
Ah, you're sweet.
Oh, okay.
So this lesson is really one of my favorite. And I actually, way before A Course in Miracles, I had learned a phrase that had gotten me through a lot in life. And it was, we don't need more in life. We need to want more what we already have. We don't. So this lesson's kind of saying the same thing. When it says, I seek but what belongs to me in truth, throughout the Course in Miracles, they do that a lot. They throw that word but. So let me kind of put it in a more understandable format. I seek nothing but what only belongs to me in truth. What belongs to us? Does cars and homes and stuff belong to us? Yeah, if we own them. But in reality, what A Course teaches is things that are temporary, that's not where you want your happiness to be in temporary, quote, things. You want your happiness to be permanent, which comes from the eternal side of yourself. And so that's the spiritual happiness that we are born with. So what you're seeking in this world is what you already have within you, but it's covered up. They're gifts. And in fact, part of one of the phrases is, I seek what belongs to me in truth, and joy and peace are my inheritance. So we're born with those. So you think of an inheritance, someone dies, you inherit money or whatever. Well, this is the type of inheritance you don't need to wait on. You can have it right now because it's within you. Again, I think we've said it in every lesson. Everything we want or need is within us. And what more could we want than joy and happiness, right? And peace. We go out and we do all these crazy things, try to become, quote, successful. For what reason? To feel good and be happy. But that's conditions, right? To be happy. So this whole lesson, what it teaches is we have put other gifts in our hearts and our minds to replace the gifts we were born with. And the gifts are wrapped up in something, some place, some amount of money, some car, or probably the worst of all, our happiness is derived in our minds from some other person. How many of us, and maybe we've experienced this ourselves, where all of a sudden, oh my God, she left me, or oh my God, he left me. Our world's upside down. He was my everything. She was my everything. And it's usually something bad, a death or a divorce or whatever. It's like that was their happiness. Whereas it's being aware that the outside world can enhance the happiness that you already have within you. And of course, we're humans. It hurts when we lose anything. We've covered that loss in other lessons. But really, I seek but what belongs to me in truth. The truth of the matter is all we really have are true peace and happiness within us. Even the pain and suffering we brought upon ourselves. So that's the gist of the lesson. We have to replace the gifts that we made in our mind. We have to remove them. And the word gift, we think, oh, that's good. Well, have you ever gotten a gift of dead fish in the mail?
No.
That's not a good gift, right?
Is that a hint for our next anniversary? No.
Or they doing The Godfather, that guy was in bed and he pulled back the sheets. There was a horse's head in there. It was awful.
Oh,
that was his gift. That was a message. But my point is, there are certain gifts we have in our minds. And, if you've noticed, this is our 6th podcast. The first 5 were about removing, all these negativities that we've held on to, fear, anxieties, worries, shame, guilt, regrets, not wanting to let go of loss and pain and suffering. That's the first thing we have to do, is release all that. And then what's left is what we naturally are. So we want more what we already have. We don't need to seek things outside of us. Again, it's from within ourselves. So
that's incredible.
Well, but we got to be careful, because there's some things in there. So that's a little bit lighter than a lot of the other lessons, because we're trying to be happy and be joyful. And I remember I told you the other day, I said, man, this stuff's really working. What if I become more spiritual and less human? But then I immediately was shaken up to reality again when I had a couple people steal my joy. Remember, oh my goodness. So it's like it's a constant fight, right? A battle. Yeah. That's the fight. The good fight club is you become aware of what's happening, and we can always point the finger at someone else, but it's really us who let stuff in our mind to ruin our joy and our happiness. We're always in control. So.
Okay. So I think this is a great place for us to take a break. Yeah. So we are talking about I Seek But What Belongs to Me in Truth, Lesson 104, about the real joy and peace. And when we come back, we'll talk about how that plays out in our lives.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. For more tips and ways to dig deep and get real, sign up for our newsletter, read blogs, and shop our merch at fightthegoodfightclub.com.
And you are here with Cynthia and Marcel, and we are talking about really the most important thing, right? The foundational things, inner joy and peace, and what they really, really are, right? Because we think we know, and
they really reside within us. And the idea is to not seek for joy and peace outside of ourselves. Our lives that we're building on this physical plane are, we derive joy and peace. Experiences we have, maybe we're supposed to love people and use things, but a lot of times we get confused and we love things and use people, so that can kind of get wrapped up in society, and I think in large part that happens a lot. But the idea is the joy and peace are within us, and that it flows out, and no matter what happens outside of us, it won't disrupt the joy and peace we have within us. So we're humans. We're going to suffer grief and loss. Someone passes away, somebody we were close to, but not to the point where it devastates us. If it unduly damages you, where it kind of, quote, ruins your life. I've met people who maybe have gotten divorced and they never got over it, and all of a sudden they start hitting the bottle, drinking or whatever, and they just never quite recover emotionally, physically, financially, or anything, because they weren't grounded within their natural birthrights and inheritance, which was joy and peace to begin with. So
yeah, definitely. I thought about you so much when I was visiting my family. I actually went through quite a few challenges trying to manage that. So just a quick recap. I was separated from my parents for almost 30 years. Very difficult childhood. My mother and I reconciled. My father and I reconciled. Last year, we had the Great Cintron Reconnection Tour. And so now we're in June. We're a year and a half in to this new normal. And it's been, for the most part, really good. But there are challenges. And I thought that it would be really great to cover this today, because it explains how you can create joyful moments. You can work on yourself. But the reality is that we wake up every day, we go to sleep every day with ourselves, but also with other people, and in all kinds of different contexts. life happens. It happens every day. It happens differently. And what is that thing that saying that you lay plans or you plan for things and God laughs?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm planning this and God's
Right.
up there going, really watch this. So I ended up traveling with my parents. Marcel had some work he had to do. He was going to join me there and ended up staying. And my parents are older. My mother's 76. My father's 82. And because of the coronavirus, my parents didn't want to take any connections, and they didn't want to take small planes, things like that. So we ended up flying direct to a city and then renting a car for 4 hours, staying in a hotel and driving. It was planes, trains, and automobiles minus the trains for this thing. And then we spent 5 days with my brother, sister-in-law, and nephew, who is delicious. He is nothing but utter joy. By the way, if you want to know what absolute peace and joy is, find a baby, find a child, because they don't know.
They don't know.
Their emotions are so pure. Give them a cookie, they're happy.
Yeah.
They need a nap, they cry. I mean, it's just so pure and simple and uncomplicated for the most part, right? So, for the most part, we had an amazing trip. We did so much. We went to the park, again, because you can't go to places because of Corona. We're wearing our masks and we're social distancing. So we really were with the family. So we cooked. My father and my brother and I had cigars and scotch. And so I had really amazing time with all my family members collectively and separately, right? It was also Father's Day weekend. So it was pretty extraordinary. So that also takes me through the different emotions that I was going through, because we spent a lot of time together. Things, the niceties that people try to just create, they sort of fall away and we just become who we are, which is not good or bad. It just is what it is, right? So there were a couple of instances there was one with my brother, there was one with both of my parents, there was one with my sister-in-law, where I found myself having anxiety and feeling uncomfortable. There was one time that I went down to my room and I called Marcel and I said, and I was really feeling down.
I've never heard you sound like that, to be quite honest with you. And I said, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Well, no, you were struggling."
Yeah.
I've never heard you that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of it was that, so you go through forgiveness and you have wonderful times, and it just reminds us that we don't do forgiveness once and it's done and everything is perfect.
It's a work in progress.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. So without going into too much detail, I had, there was reminiscence of my childhood, and it made me feel really uncomfortable. I felt anger. I felt fear. I wanted to go home. Like I wanted to get in a plane and come home.
Yeah.
And I had to struggle. I called you. I reached out to you because I just needed to, find my safe place, I guess, and just hear your voice, just to separate myself from those feelings, isolate for a moment. So I think that's so when I'm going through these things, and this is part of what this learning does, right? We have to do self-healing. We have to do self-soothing. We have to really go inside of our place to find our inner peace. And so I separated myself because I knew that I was feeling uncomfortable and I didn't want to. And I realized that it wasn't about my parents. It wasn't about whatever it was that was going on. It was a feeling that was coming from within.
Right.
It was a reminder of what happened when I was a child.
Right.
So for our listeners, you can fill in that blank. I am feeling awful, whatever awful is, angry, fear, shame, anxious, whatever. And anxious is a combination usually of fear and anger.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a negative feeling and I want to lash out. I want to cry. I want to scream. Really, I wanted to stop my feet and scream. This is why I didn't talk to you for 30 years.
Yes.
You know, and even with my brother, you
Yes.
know, he irritated me because he was poking me and whatever. But I just felt awful. So my first thing was awareness.
Yeah.
I feel awful and I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
So I very quietly, I just went back into the room because I stayed with them. And I just sat there for a second and then I called you because I needed to come down from that feeling that was horrible. For
sure.
I'm in another city, you know, in a house full of people and we're in the middle of COVID. I can't find a plane anyway, the next morning. But I do have always an awareness, which is a double-edged sword, but it's so empowering. I have everything that I need within me.
There you go.
And whether if you're spiritual, is that God that you look to? Is that prayer? Is it a moment of a corner? Is it a moment of our producer Jesse talks the I and I?
Yeah.
You know, which
God
is
within.
Yeah, the God within, which is really powerful. But that place lives in me 24/7.
That's it.
That is an absolute true fact.
That is your home.
That is my home, and I can visit it 24/7.
And your safe place.
And my safe place. So I removed myself and I was looking for it, but I was challenged. I couldn't find it. So I called you just to talk, to sort of, because there was so much noise. There was so much negativity that was floating around me and I felt despair.
Sure.
So we chatted for a moment and you just said, hey, I hear that you're really upset, that you're really sad, and it's okay.
Yeah.
So that was really amazing. So my partner validated where I was. He couldn't take it away. He couldn't fly in and grab it away, but you could validate it for me.
Sure.
And I sat with that. And then I just, you know, was looking for that. And that gave me peace for a moment.
Yeah.
And then I just realized, you know, I can move through this.
Yeah.
And I don't have to lash out and I don't have to do anything. So it didn't. Did it make it perfect? No. Is it always perfect? No. But it did bring me to a place where I could.
Well, you could reach out and you can seek but what belongs to you in truth. In that moment, you're looking for something. You're looking to escape those feelings, all that, the past, all of that. So what do? You seek the truth. What is the truth? The truth of who you really are, which is joy and peace inside, and realize maybe they were promulgating a bad atmosphere with smoke, and you started inhaling the smoke that they put in the atmosphere, and all of a sudden you realize, I don't have to inhale this smoke. I can be in the midst of this smoke and not even inhale it, and that's the miracle of how our mind works.
Yeah.
And don't forget, this whole Course in Miracles is really, it's almost self-cognitive therapy, regardless of what your beliefs are.
Yeah.
So if you don't believe in God, there's something in you that's called life. Let's just call it life. Life within you has planted in us the ability to just make it through anything and be happy in spite of what's going on around us.
Yeah.
Life gave us a mechanism to choose.
Yeah.
But that mechanism, that muscle may be weak. Mm-hmm. And I know in me it's weak because when we first started this podcast, 5 episodes ago, I still had a lot of turmoil in me. One of the reasons we were doing this was this kind of carried on from the couch, at night. I was talking about this, and we're just kind of recording it now, these conversations. But I feel like light years better, and it's almost because one of the lessons teaches you receive what you give. You don't receive what you get. Whenever you give it, you receive it. So this all ties in together, that when things seek within yourself, that safe spot, that happy place that's true and eternal and timeless. It's been there before time began, because time will disappear and we'll go back to eternity. Life will always survive, always has. Yeah. So incidentally, this concept of life is eternal. So if you believe that when we die, that's it, there's a finality, you're gone, okay, that's your belief, no problem. We're not here to, but I personally believe that life is eternal and that we're just housed in a body and we'll leave. So while we're in there, we have power and dominion over thought, whether we realize it or not. And we can blame other people for things they say, or even, so I love in Course in Miracles, they teach that your body is not who you are. So if there's things done to your body against your will, that was just your body. Now you can let it damage your mind.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, I understand, because I've been in those positions, and I still, like you. But the whole idea is, if you can think, what can I do? Well, you can seek within yourself and know the truth.
Yeah.
There is joy and peace in you.
Yeah.
And no matter what happens, it's your safe place. There's strength.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff is called an illusion, because it's not real. You say, well, this pain certainly is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not from the core of who you are. That's all in your head. The core of who you really are, the truth that's eternal, is that there is joy and peace in there.
Yeah.
So you can always seek that.
Yeah.
So.
And that's, definitely. And that's what I was looking for. I reminded myself why I was there.
Yes.
And I was there to spend time with my nephew.
You went there for joy and peace.
And I went there for joy and peace.
You did.
Because those are the paths. He leads me that
there
path.
You go.
And you know what? The connection of family and everything that it brings with it. So really reminding myself why I forgave.
Yes.
That's really important.
And when you forgive, sometimes I think there's an element in us that secretly wants other people to change.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And you know what? Sometimes we get angry. I do that. Man, people never change, you know? And it's like, so you got to continually remind yourself, you have the power over how you feel. People can instigate, and you can put it outside yourself. This person made me feel that way. Well, they did something that gave you information that you are processed, and then you had it in your hands, and unbeknownst, it could happen in an instant. You then give the information, feed it into your mind, and now you've accepted it. Somebody says you're fat. Whether you realize it or not, you process it in an instant. You let that thought go in and let it attack you. I am fat. I've always been fat. My mother called me fat, or whatever. And then you go through and you can accept that. Or you can go, just let it go. It means nothing. In fact, that's the second lesson of Course in Miracles. Anything I see means nothing. And you're like, I don't understand that. Well, now it's starting to come to me.
Yeah.
All this stuff really means nothing.
Yeah.
All that matters is peace and joy.
Yeah.
All the other stuff that we're trying to find peace and joy in, whether it's building a family, building a home, building a career, those are all great on this world.
Right.
But we need to emanate the peace and joy in us in the process of what we're doing. That way we can be happy and joyful whether we're disappointed or not. If we don't get that promotion, if we don't get that job, if that business doesn't make it, we're still happy.
Well, sometimes, absolutely, and that's a fact. So you've got that endpoint.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult to go from the thought to the joy.
That's the fight, right?
So the fight. So for me, what I find works, like if, with your example with the fat, I'm fat. Well, rather than internalizing and saying I'm fat, which by the way has no action items attached to it, what does that represent? So what I like to do sometimes is sort of examine what it is that makes that appealing to me. So if you called me fat and it upset me, after I punched you, I laid you out and walked over your body.
Look, I can call me fat, but you can't call me fat.
That's right. So, but if somebody were to call me fat, I think if that hurt me, then, and I wanted to move through that, I can't be like, oh, okay, I'm not fat, and think that it's going to be great and I'm fabulous. And in a perfect world, that's what you would do, right? But it's difficult. What I find is that I will think about, what does being fat represent to me, and what does not being fat represent to me? Yeah. So, for example, just for this, my record got stuck.
Which one?
The one in my brain that says keep going, next thought, synapse is gone, or whatever. So, okay, let's say that fat represents to me being lazy or being irresponsible or being out of control or all of those things. That's what it represents in my head to me, that word means. That's why it causes me angst. Yeah. It also represents not feeling good or not looking good, right? So what is it that I would like to accomplish? The opposite of that. I want to feel empowered. I want to feel satisfied. I want to feel all, those things that I would write that down, right? And say, for example, if I fit in that dress that I haven't fit into in 5 years, I would be happy. which, by the way, I would be happy in a moment, but, an hour later I'd find something else to be unhappy about. But if that's a goal, that's fine. Create a goal that's useful for you. But at least that has an action item.
Yeah.
And it creates a purpose instead of just being negative.
Right.
When you go from I am fat to I would like to fit into that dress that doesn't have a negative connotation. And then I can start to think of what are the things that I could do to fit into that dress? Yeah. Well, maybe if I walked 30 minutes every day, maybe if I eliminated a soft drink every day, maybe if I did. So it creates an opportunity for you to create a pathway to the thing that you want. Right?
Correct.
So that's what I like to do. If somebody says something negative to me and I internalize it and it makes me feel really bad. So with my parents and my brother, my family, when I was in the house and I was feeling miserable and I was sitting there just all kinds of feeling bad. And after talking to you, I sat with it for a minute. I didn't punish myself for feeling bad. Yeah. It just is. And then, which gave me the freedom, without attacking myself, to think, well, why am I here and what is it that I do want to feel? Well, I want to feel peace and joy. Great. What brings me peace and joy when I'm here? Well, it brings me peace and joy to be laughing and smiling with my family and spending time with my nephew, my godson. So maybe what I'll do is that I'll come out and I'll talk about my nephew, because that brings me joy and happiness. So whatever it is that we were talking about that irritated me no end, I have the power to focus myself on what brings me peace and joy. Yeah. And if that doesn't work when I'm there, the other alternative is I could come right back to my room. I could just say, hey, listen, guys, I'm really tired, and go to bed. Yeah. Wake up the next morning and let it wash over.
There you go.
But there are tools and there are things that we can do when there is noise around us to create a safe space for us to move forward.
Easier said than done, right? So I remember I was dating this girl one time. She was going through a divorce, and she had a little girl. So she gets a phone call. It's her ex-husband-to-be. They'd been separated for like 2 years, and the divorce was dragging out. And she started crying really bad. I said, what's wrong? What did he say? He said that my daughter was going to grow up just like me. And I said, really? I said, okay. I said, what's so bad about that? She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I see you. You're beautiful. You're vibrant. You're intelligent. You're highly capable of doing anything. You're like a miracle worker at your business. She had her own business. And I said, what's wrong with your daughter growing up with those attributes? And she looked at me. She goes, I never thought about that, because he had beat me up so bad emotionally, told me I was nothing, and which is why I'm divorcing him, the negativity. And she goes, I didn't realize that. I said, well, now you have some new information. Take another look at yourself. And then she sped that, and finally he dragging out the divorce because he didn't want to let her go. And finally they got divorced. But she's living a vibrant life. She got remarried and is very happy now. So the point is that peace and joy was covered up by comments from someone else. So it's almost like, imagine taking a sharp needle with a comment attached, you're stupid, okay, and someone's trying to stab that into your mind, and you don't realize it, and they may not even realize it. That's what gives them power, is when they can control your react or control how you feel. And so they hand you that needles, okay, and that says you're stupid, and you stab it in your mind, and it's there, I'm stupid, and you go around acting stupid because you believe what someone else said about you. So here's the simple solution: just be the truth, your joy and happiness.
Yeah.
Why can't we just be who we are? We have to think about who we are.
We have to internalize what
we're
other
not
people's
sold
opinion
on the
is.
Concept or the truth that we're joy and peace, and we need to want who we already are. Yeah. We have to go out and experiment and say, well, maybe that's not really joy and peace in me. Maybe I can find it over here, and we don't consciously, but that's what we do in this world.
Yeah,
Until something bad happens and we're forced to examine what joy and peace and happiness are, to realize that they are gifts in us.
Yeah. I did a many personal development workshops, and one of the profound things that I came out of it with was validation.
Yeah.
And do you find validation externally or do you find it within yourself?
There you go.
So when people who are the most successful in joy and love and all of the things that we attribute to success are people who find validation from within.
Yeah.
Which is what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Your peace and your joy are within. So if somebody is out there, just like you said, oh, if I find this person, if I get married, if my mother finally accepts me, if my,
there you go.
if my best friend doesn't avoid me, if my children spend time with me. Yeah. And there are all of these other, if you're making those statements, because seriously, if I would give somebody an exercise, and I know we do nuggets at the end, but I'm a big fan of assessing in the morning and in the evening. And I have a business coach that does, gratitudes every morning. Wake up and think of 3 things you're grateful for or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is great. But and in addition to that, I find that at the end of the day, doing an assessment of where my thoughts were and it's like taking inventory of the day. Would I say that the majority of my day today was happy or sad or angry? Where did I spend the majority of my day today? Sure. If I spent the majority of my day today irritated, why? And then write down what are all the things that irritated you. And then look at that. It's eye-opening. Yeah. I started doing this. I used to obsess over someone because I have in the past been subject to being codependent and having relationship and attracting toxic relationships. So when the toxic relationships get to too much, I sort of sit down and think about, why am I obsessing? It's like morning, noon, and night. It's about this relationship. Why? And I started making lists. Why do I have this in my life? Why do I keep it in my life? What would it be like without it in my life? And just running those lists. And when I wrote it down on paper, it started to make more sense. It wasn't just this big old haze jumble in my head. Sure. So I would just make this list. What is it that irritated me today? And can I change that? And if I were to change that, what would my life look like? If I removed all of those things from my life, what would my day be like? And it's so eye-opening. And you know how I felt when I thought about removing those things from my life? Happy, joy, dancing around, saying, oh, if I didn't have them in my life, it would be so amazing. Oh, if that person would just not be in my life, it would be great. It's like, okay, guess what? You have the power to have them. You have the power to remove them.
The Course in Miracles, exactly. So the Course in Miracles.
And I don't mean by throwing them off a bus or something. I mean like actively removing them from your life. Not taking their, yeah.
So, okay, what you're saying is basically when I look at these few things that we have done here, is the initial is just removing the negativity out of your mind, the grievances, the grudges, the fears, all that, to get to the core of what we all really want. So a morbid statistic, I happened to look it up before it came because I was curious. There's actually on the average is 132 people commit suicide every single day in our country.
Wow.
Every single day in our country, 132 people decide to check themselves out. And you say, okay, who has ever heard of someone checking themselves out because they were too happy? No. It's usually something inside of them. And I thought, what could it be? Something happened physically, or something happened emotionally or psychologically. Okay? So on the physical side, what the Course teaches is we are not a body. So whatever happened, to quote you, happened to the body you occupy. Yeah. Remember I was telling you?
Absolutely.
The body I occupy isn't doing so good today. That sounds so weird, right? So I'm coming from from a point of view of I, the spirit, am in this body, and this body I'm in is like the back of this body is hurting versus my back.
Yeah.
It's not your back. It's the body's, it's just the back of the body.
Yeah.
You are a spirit in that body. So the point is, if you identify with your body and something happens to your body, and that is who you identify with, then of course you're going to be hurt. And maybe you can't take it anymore. There have been people who have committed suicide because they felt ugly, because they were told they were ugly, and
or they were physically abused.
Physically abused, right? And then you take that abuse, that one could be one instance where you attack your own mind because someone attacked your body. You got to, they're separate. Your mind and your body are separate, even though they're connected. Your mind can affect your body, and what happens to your body can affect your mind. So then the other aspect is somebody says something, calls you ugly or whatever, and you feel that way. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional abuse. And then you go really far with it, and then to the point where you can't take it, and you check and I thought 132 people a day. And I'm like, have I ever been to that point? I had a period where I wasn't thinking about it, but I had this scene where I was draped over a 55-gallon drum, just drooped over, and blood was just leaking out. And I thought, why would I think that? Where did that come from? I thought, I want to think that. I want to live.
I actually was there. I've been there, and I was seeing a therapist, and the therapist asked me a question that was really, really eye-opening, and it changed. I think it saved my life. The therapist said to me, do you want to end your life, or do you want to escape the pain?
That's it.
And I said, I want to escape the pain.
Exactly.
He said, okay, then we can work with that.
Yeah.
Because if you want to end your life, there's really no choice. Like, it's much more difficult. That's when you call 911.
Sure.
But if you want to escape the pain, there is escape from the pain.
Absolutely.
He said, I can work with that.
Yeah.
And it really, it was such a paradigm shift for me that I didn't think about killing myself again because I realized that I want to live. I just don't want to be in pain.
Right. Yeah. So
that was profound.
Why isn't it this simple? Okay. Why can't we write our feelings on an index card, set it down, get it out of our mind, and now our mind's blank, and we look at those index cards and go, all that crap was just in my mind. Now, which ones do I want to put back in? You go, I don't want to put any of this. Now what do you go? Oh, wait, you take a look in your mind. What's in there? It's joy and peace. Once you get all that crap out, that's what this whole, our minds are split. They're fragmented with thoughts that aren't real. And an unreal thought is one that's temporary, that's of the dark side, that's fear-based. Those aren't real. So, and again, the reason why we're doing this recording is for us to learn it ourselves. Because you and I have been through a lot, and we want to get rid of it once and for all. And we know that, like that dream I had where there's still a little bit of crap, still a little bit of mess, but the bulk of it's gone, and I don't want it to return. I'm not going to let it back in, because as you continually live the truth, you become more and more, that truth muscle becomes stronger. Yeah. So to me, this lesson is very powerful.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Well, okay, you have a blank mind. What do I do with it? Just want what you already have. Or what do I have? Your peace and joy. What if you had no thoughts, and that's the only thing you could think is that I'm peace and joy? Oh, you would go live it, and then everything else would just be like, oh, you're fat. What does that mean? You're ugly.
You wouldn't even hear it. It would just
you might as well be
you.
speaking of, I don't understand what you're saying. What are you saying?
Yeah.
I'm peace and joy. I'm happy. Well, you're dumb. Well, what does that mean?
All right.
You're ignorant to negativity now, and you say, because you've learned that that doesn't serve you very well. Yeah. And I personally believe we're on this earth to learn what we're not. Yeah. Once we learn what we're not, then we go back to who we are. Now we have a reference point. Maybe when we're gone out of these bodies, we go, oh, you want to go down to earth? I mean, there's some bad stuff that happens. What's that? Well, go find out for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
We have just like we have a vague remembrance of happiness and truth, we have a vague of eternity, of being a spiritual being. We're going to have a vague remembrance of this life. Now we have a very quiet, subtle reference point of what eternal love is. Yeah. So now, that's how I've convinced myself anyway, and it's serving me very, very well now, especially with all the loss I've experienced and the pain and the suffering that I've experienced in this life. Yeah. And now it's slowly dissipating. It's like smoke that's just poof going away. So, so this is a very powerful lesson. Yeah.
So while you were talking, I was also thinking about what it was that was upsetting me so much, and I think that a lot of us suffer from this. I think that part of what was upsetting to me was my want to have acceptance And I wanted them to think the way that I wanted them to think.
Yeah.
And I want them to be like me.
Yeah.
And they're not like me.
Right.
And they, and their opinion of me matters to me.
Sure.
So, and we have that a lot. Like when you and I argue, for example, part of the reason that we're arguing is that your opinion of what I think and what I'm saying matters to me because I love you. You validate me. So I'm looking for external validation. When you validate me, I'm happy. So that's great, but that doesn't work for me when you're not validating me. When you don't agree with me, you're not validating me, and I'm unhappy because your opinion matters.
Yeah.
So I think that happens a lot in relationships, and coming to an understanding that your opinion isn't of me, because if you're in relationship with me, your opinion of me is that I'm a wonderful person because you love me. And I just stuck my finger in your face. Hold on, I got to finish it. See, now I forgot my thought. No, hold on. So, but also, it shouldn't matter to me. I should just be being
Precisely.
who I am. Now, there's a balance to that, because if I wake up every day and bonk you on the head, you're not going to be happy with that. But if I am being myself and I'm emanating love and joy to you, every once in a while, I'm not going to be love and joy because I'm human.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you and I are in relationship because we're emanating love and joy and we love each other, right?
Correct.
So, but if I spend all of my time worried about what you think,
Right.
maybe I should sit down and do my assessment, because there's a good chance that maybe you don't love me.
Right.
Maybe you're not the right partner for me.
Correct.
You and I talk about, there's a friend between us that is miserable all the time with their boyfriend, and when we're having conversation, it seems like 99.9% of the time this person is in misery with their boyfriend.
Absolutely.
But they love them? I don't understand that. I'm like, this is the most toxic thing I've ever seen in my life.
And the operative word was opinion.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning something too. So I really don't have any opinions of you. They're subsiding.
Yeah, you do. You think I'm fabulous.
Well, that's a truth. It's not an opinion.
Good. If you don't have an opinion, I'm going to give you an opinion.
No, the truth is you are fabulous. That's not an opinion. Okay. So there are opinions and truth. There are beliefs, but really I want to live the truth. And if you can be and live the truth, what is there to argue? And so, well, that's dogmatic, right? Well, you know what? I've experienced enough pain and suffering that I don't want any more of it. I just want to be happy the rest of the days of my life on this earth. So when I see pain and suffering trying to well up in me for whatever reason, I go, I choose different. It's becoming easier and easier and easier.
Yeah.
If you notice, I didn't get really emotional in this episode because I can feel it's just subsiding.
Yeah.
And it's not that. I think what brings emotions to me more than it was when I see union to humanity come into place.
Yeah.
And I've always been this way. I watch a movie, and if I see in the real world something that's not right, but I see it, quote, right on a movie, like, I hate to say it this way, but racism. When I see blacks and whites getting along or whatever, and there's a moment in a movie where there's like the human spirit prevails, that's what brings out the emotion in me, because I think that's really what we're here for, to unite, to be together, not to be apart and be separate, no matter what's going on. But anyway, so again, all of these lessons are all integrated. But to me, this is more focusing on the truth of who we are, which is joy and peace, and everything else is just an illusion. So,
absolutely. So I think this is a good place for us to stop. I'm feeling joy. I'm feeling joyful about this
well, one
place.
last thought. I want to. You've always brought this up too.
Yeah.
There is no joy and peace that we know unless we know their opposites.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of the opposites.
Oh, Lord, have
so
mercy.
once we know what joy and peace aren't, now we can know what they are.
Absolutely, yes.
So anyway, okay.
So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about some nuggets on how to identify, how to start thinking about joy and peace today. Maybe, today.
Right now.
It's a good day to start.
Right now.
Right now. And we're back with our lesson number 4, I seek but what belongs to me in truth. I'm Cynthia here with Marcel, and we've had a really powerful show. It's funny because it's not as exciting as the others, but that's what peace and joy is, right? It's just this inner, quiet, beautiful place. And we've talked about what it is, what it really is at its core, what it means to us, how we can attain it.
You and I have talked about this because we had so much negative fuel in us that we were afraid to maybe lose our loss. Remember we had talked about that? What do we do once we've dissipated all the negative energy and all the grudges and all the pain and suffering we've held in us and we've let go?
Yeah, it's like a songwriter that can only write songs when they're miserable.
Right. Exactly. Now what do we do? Now this concept, we're afraid to let that go because how do you embrace joy and peace? I don't really know what that is. There's always been turmoil. I've always, worked late because I didn't want to go home.
Yeah. Well, it's the difference between having things happen to you, and I'm finding that I'm actually having success because I'm excited about creating something. So it's a proactive creation as opposed to having things come out from all the negativity, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about some stuff. We've talked a little bit about what we can do now today to create an environment within us that's open to living the joy and peace that exists inside all of us right now at this very moment. Right now, joy, inner peace, everything that we need lives inside of us.
That's one of the key facets of this lesson is it's your inheritance, my inheritance, everyone's inheritance, and we can have it right now. We don't need a condition. Someone doesn't need to die. We don't need to be at a certain place.
We don't need to get a divorce. The kids don't need to move out.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So nobody has to change.
Yeah. So you change your inside world, and the outside world changes automatically.
Exactly.
So how do you do that? I think it comes down to as corny as it sounds, it comes to what is going on. What are you feeling? Pin it. Write it down.
Right. Yeah. So here are some things to just look at, and maybe when at the end of the day, when you're assessing, these might be some reference points that you might look to that will help you get that conversation going in your head so you can start writing down. So the first one that we have here, and this is an article from daringtolivefully.com, and it's 6 ways to achieve inner peace. And the first thing that they suggest is accept what is. What are the things today that you are not accepting? Are you not accepting that this isn't the right job for you? Are you not accepting that you are working really, really hard to please someone who is never going to be pleased?
Accept that maybe you can't change someone that you didn't realize you were trying to change them.
Absolutely. The next thing that they mention is practice non-judgment. This is a tough one because we are judging all the time. Think about it. You look in the mirror, you're judging your hair, you're judging the shape of your face, you're judging the person who cut you off in traffic. I mean, we're judging all the time, right? So if we're practicing non-judgment, are we judging? Were you unhappy today because you were judging your children? Were you judging your spouse? Write down the things that caused you to be in judgment. And be honest. This is just you with yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge your list. Just start writing. Just have these things come up and just write. These are the things that I do to help me sort of clear. Because what we're doing, think about it. If you're reorganizing a back room, the first thing you do, they suggest, organizing professionals suggest that you take everything in the room and you pull it out of the room and you leave the room empty. and then you decide what to bring back into the room. So this is what you're doing with this writing.
Yeah.
You are organizing your inside so that it looks and feels like a peaceful place where the energy can flow and the peace and joy can be. So let me see. Transform your addictions into preferences. We're going to move over that one. Okay. Teach your mind to be still. What are the thoughts that are running like the Tasmanian devil in your head, that are just over and over and over, running? What are those thoughts that won't stop, that you wake up in the morning and it's going? I actually have a couple right now that are driving me insane and are affecting my peace and joy. They're work related that I've got to get done. So, when I get back after this podcast, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write down the list of the things that I have to get done that will help me come to peace and joy. And I'm going to use my peace and my joy to move through those things.
That's funny because I can't get Shakira's song out of my head. Whatever, whenever. That song. Don't get that song.
Do your hips lie?
You listen to that song, you can't get it out of your head the rest of the day, man.
It is the best. Yes. Use willpower. This one I really love. Use your willpower to choose thoughts that make you feel at peace.
A happy place.
A happy place.
Thought.
And I think that that's a really beautiful, that's a beautiful spot to sort of end with. What are those thoughts? Look at your list. Be honest with it. And if you did this exercise every day for 7 days and you looked at your list side by side, I bet that you would find a pattern. Whether what bears out is that you're in a toxic relationship, whether what bears out is that you're in the wrong role at work, or just that you're just stressing over stress. Like you are your own worst enemy. You're a type A personality, and every single thing has to be a certain way and it has to be perfect. Is that because you don't trust yourself to handle the outcome? Who knows? But really, the first way to move through this and move and create that path and be on that path to happiness and joy is to identify the obstacles that are standing in your way to that place of joy. Yeah?
Correct. It's there. And you have to, the obstacles are blocking it. And guess who put those obstacles there? You.
Me.
You have to remove them. I have to remove my obstacles for my peace and joy.
Yeah.
They're covered up. It's like those are the clouds blocking the sunshine, right? And we got to remove the clouds.
Yeah. And it takes practice every single day. Every single day we
Work
have
in
to
progress.
choose.
The Japanese call it, a form of it's Kaizen, Kaizen, which is a state of continual improvement, a work in progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that fighting the good fight club?
That's fighting the good fight club. Continually fighting because it never ends.
Exactly. So I'm feeling very peaceful and very joyful, and I love this. So my judgment of this podcast is that it's filled with joy and happiness.
Yes.
And I'm super happy and at peace to be doing this with you.
If peace was a 10 when we started this podcast, I think I was at a 3.
Yeah?
Now I feel like I'm at 6.5, 7.
Yeah.
Something's going to come along, knock me down to a 4 probably, but I'm trying to get
before the end of the day, for sure. Well, we have a couple of stops to make on the way home, so I'm sure something will irritate us. But the good news is that we have within us to put our head on our pillow tonight and sleep peacefully if we choose it.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
And if you don't irritate me.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll figure something out.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I guess that's our podcast today. Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Cynthia Cintron.
Marcel Pope, namaste.
Yes. And we want to invite you to, if you like what you're listening to and you want to hear more, please follow us, like us, on your favorite app, download, subscribe, all that good stuff, because we'll be coming to you every week with more ways to fight the good fight. Until then,
Namaste.
Be at peace, everyone.
If you enjoy our podcast, we invite you to subscribe to Fight the Good Fight Club on YouTube. Hit the notification button and give us a thumbs up. Also, head over to fightthegoodfightclub.com and sign up for the newsletter, read blogs, and more. Thanks for listening.